Alex Carter sat alone in the dimly lit control room of the observatory, staring at rows of numbers and graphs on the computer screen. The hum of machines filled the silence as he adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to examine the data. It was late at night and most of the staff had already left for home. But Alex wasn't tired. His mind buzzed with curiosity, like it always did when something unusual caught his eye. For weeks now, he'd been analyzing signals picked up by deep space probes sent out years ago. Most of what came back was just noise, random bursts of radiation or echoes from distant stars. Nothing exciting. That's what made tonight so different. Buried within the static, there was a faint but consistent signal. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. At first, Alex thought it might be interference from Earth's equipment, but after running multiple checks, he realized this was no accident. This was real. He grabbed his phone and called Rachel Dawson, his colleague and closest friend at the observatory. She answered groggily after a few rings. "Rachel, you need to come in," Alex said, trying to keep the excitement out of his voice. "I think I found something." "Something?" Rachel mumbled, still half asleep. "It's 2 a.m, Alex. Can't it wait?" "No, it can't," Alex replied firmly. "Trust me, you'll want to see this." 20 minutes later, Rachel walked into the control room, tying her hair back into a messy ponytail. She looked annoyed but curious. "All right, show me what's got you acting like a kid on Christmas morning." Alex pointed to the screen. "Look at this. See the pattern? It's not random, and it's coming from outside our solar system." He explained how he'd isolated the signal and run it through filters to confirm its authenticity. Rachel frowned, pulling up a chair next to him. For the next hour, they pored over the data together, discussing possibilities. Was it natural, a glitch, or something else entirely? "It's definitely artificial," Rachel finally concluded, leaning back in her chair. "But who or what is sending it?" Alex shrugged. "That's the million-dollar question. Whoever they are, they're far away, really far." The two of them decided to dig deeper. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly, decoding fragments of the transmission. What they discovered shocked them. Embedded within the signal were coordinates, a HFY map pointing to a specific region of space. They weren't sure what it meant, but one thing was clear. Someone wanted them to find it. Word of their discovery eventually reached higher-ups at the government agency overseeing the observatory. Within hours, a team of officials arrived, demanding to review their findings. Among them was Captain Jack Monroe, a tall man with sharp features and an even sharper demeanor. He introduced himself briefly before taking charge of the situation. "We need everything you've got," Monroe told them bluntly. "Every piece of data, every calculation. Now." Rachel crossed her arms, narrowing her eyes. "And why exactly? Should we hand all of this over to you?" "Because," Monroe said calmly, "if this is what I think it is, it could change everything, for better or worse." Reluctantly, Alex and Rachel handed over their research. In return, they were given permission to stay involved in the project, albeit under strict supervision. The government wasted no time assembling a task force to investigate further. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel were brought in to analyze the signal and prepare for whatever lay ahead. As weeks turned into months, preparations intensified. Plans were drawn up for humanity's first interstellar mission, a journey to the coordinates provided by the mysterious signal. The spaceship Odyssey was chosen for the job, a state-of-the-art vessel designed for long-distance travel. Its crew would include Alex, Rachel, Captain Monroe, and several others selected for their expertise. Despite the excitement, Alex couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Something about the whole situation felt off. Why would an unknown civilization send such a detailed invitation? What if it wasn't friendly? He voiced his concerns to Rachel during one of their rare breaks. "You're overthinking it," she said with a dismissive wave. "Maybe they just want to say hello. We won't know until we get there." "But what if they don't?" Alex pressed. "What if they're testing us? Or worse, planning something?" Rachel sighed, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Look, I get it, this is uncharted territory. But we can't let fear stop us from taking the next step. If we play our cards right, this could be the biggest moment in human history. Alex nodded reluctantly, though doubt lingered in the back of his mind. Still, there was no turning back now. The countdown to launch had begun, and the world was watching. On the day of departure, crowds gathered outside the launch site, cheering and waving flags. Cameras captured every moment as the Odyssey prepared to leave Earth's atmosphere. Inside the ship, the mood was tense but focused. Each member of the crew knew the weight of their mission. They weren't just representing themselves, they were representing all of humanity. As the engines roared to life and the ship ascended into the sky, Alex stared out the window, watching Earth shrink behind them. For the first time in his life, he truly understood how small their planet was, compared to the vastness of space. Whatever awaited them at those coordinates, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The journey aboard the Odyssey was long, quiet, and filled with anticipation. The crew spent most of their time running simulations, checking equipment, and preparing for every possible scenario they might face once they reached the mysterious coordinates. Alex Carter, Rachel Dawson, Captain Jack Monroe, and the rest of the team worked together in shifts, ensuring that the ship remained on course and ready for whatever lay ahead. Alex often found himself staring out the viewport at the endless expanse of stars. It was hard to believe how far they had come already. Earth felt like a distant memory now, replaced by the hum of the ship's engines and the weight of their mission. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of beings would be waiting for them. Were they friendly, hostile, or something entirely different? Rachel, on the other hand, seemed more focused on the technical side of things. She spent hours poring over the data they'd brought with them, double-checking calculations and testing the ship's communication systems. "If we're going to meet aliens," she told Alex one evening, "we need to make sure we can actually talk to them." Captain Monroe kept everyone in line, his no-nonsense attitude keeping the crew disciplined. He held regular meetings to discuss progress and address concerns. During one such meeting, he reminded everyone of the stakes. "This isn't just about curiosity," he said firmly. "We are representing humanity. How we handle this will shape our future, not just for us, but for generations to come." Finally, after months of travel, the Odyssey approached the destination provided by the mysterious signal. What they saw took their breath away. Orbiting a barren moon was a fleet of massive alien ships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Their sleek metallic surfaces shimmered faintly in the light of a nearby star, and strange symbols glowed along their hulls. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes, the ship's pilot, carefully maneuvered the Odyssey closer while maintaining a safe distance. "Looks like we've got company," he said, his voice calm but tinged with awe. Through the viewport, the crew could see movement on the alien vessels. Then, without warning, a smaller ship detached from the fleet and began heading straight toward them. Its design was unlike anything they'd imagined, long and insect-like with jagged edges and glowing blue veins running along its surface. "This is it," Captain Monroe said, standing tall. "Stay sharp, everyone." As the alien craft drew nearer, the crew prepared for contact. Dr. Emily Shaw, the xenobiologist, activated the translation device she had been working on during the journey. It wasn't perfect, but it was their best shot at understanding any form of communication the aliens might use. When the alien ship finally came within range, a bright flash of light illuminated the Odyssey. For a moment, everyone braced themselves, thinking it might be an attack. But instead, a holographic image appeared before them. A towering figure with a chitinous exoskeleton, 6 limbs, and compound eyes that glinted menacingly. Its voice came through as a series of clicks and hums translated into fragmented English by Dr. Shaw's device. "Identify yourselves," the creature said haltingly. Captain Monroe stepped forward, speaking clearly into the microphone. "We are humans, representatives of Earth. We received your signal and have come in peace." The alien tilted its head slightly as if studying them. After a pause, it responded, "You, primitive, unworthy?" Rachel clenched her fists, offended but determined not to let her emotions show. Alex noticed her reaction and gave her a subtle nod, urging her to stay calm. Before anyone could respond, another alien appeared beside the first. This one was larger and carried an air of authority. Through the translator, it introduced itself as Commander Vorthak. "Why do you come us from board?" it asked, its tone cold and dismissive. "We seek knowledge and understanding," Captain Monroe replied diplomatically. "Your signal led us here. We hope to learn from you." Commander Vorthak emitted a low growl, which the translator rendered as laughter. "Learn? From us? You? Incapable. Weak." The insult hung heavily in the air, but Captain Monroe didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he pressed on. "Perhaps we lack your technology, but we have potential. That's why we're here, to grow, to improve." Vorthak's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of interest in its multifaceted eyes. Still, it wasn't enough to soften its stance. "Prove worthiness," it demanded. Without warning, one of the Krylos warriors, the name they used for their species, raised a weapon and fired at a nearby asteroid. The blast was instantaneous, reducing the massive rock to dust in seconds. The display was meant to intimidate, and it succeeded. Several members of the crew gasped audibly, including Lieutenant Hayes, who muttered under his breath, "That's some serious firepower." But while others were awestruck or frightened, Rachel's mind raced with excitement. Her eyes darted around the room, analyzing every detail of the weapons operation. She quickly grabbed a tablet and began recording everything she could see. The energy signature, the trajectory of the blast, even the way the weapon seemed to pulse before firing. Captain Monroe regained his composure and addressed Vorthak again. "Impressive," he admitted. "But destruction alone doesn't define strength, cooperation does." Vorthak didn't seem convinced, but it didn't order an immediate attack either. Instead, it turned to confer with its fellow Krylos. As the aliens communicated silently among themselves, the crew of the Odyssey exchanged uneasy glances. No one knew what would happen next. Rachel leaned over to Alex and whispered, "Did you see that? The way the weapon charged before firing? It's using quantum entanglement principles, I'm sure of it." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying you can replicate it?" "I don't know yet," Rachel admitted. "But if we survive this, I'm going to find out." After several tense minutes, Vorthak turned back to the humans. "Leave. Return. Stronger. Then speak." With that, the hologram vanished, and the alien ship began retreating toward the main fleet. The message was clear. The humans weren't welcome. For now. But there was also a challenge implied. If humanity wanted to earn the respect of the Krylos, they would need to prove themselves capable. As the Odyssey pulled away from the alien fleet, the mood aboard the ship was mixed. Some, like Captain Monroe, were relieved that the encounter hadn't ended in violence. Others, like Rachel, were already planning their next move. Back in the control room, Alex stared at the receding image of the Krylos ships on the monitor. "Do you think they'll ever trust us?" he asked quietly. Rachel didn't answer right away. She was too busy reviewing the footage of the weapon demonstration. Finally, she looked up and met his gaze. "Maybe not," she said. "But if we can match their technology or even surpass it, they won't have a choice." For the first time since leaving Earth, Alex felt a spark of hope. Humanity might be small and inexperienced compared to the Krylos, but they had something. The aliens didn't. Determination. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The Odyssey was quiet on the journey back to Earth. The crew had seen enough of the Krylos to know they were dealing with a civilization far more advanced than humanity. But instead of feeling defeated, Rachel Dawson felt a fire burning inside her. She couldn't stop thinking about the weapon the Krylos had demonstrated, the way it had obliterated an asteroid in seconds. It wasn't just powerful, it was elegant, precise, and Rachel was determined to figure out how it worked. Back on Earth, the government wasted no time setting up a top-secret research facility in the Nevada desert. Rachel and Alex Carter were placed in charge of analyzing the data collected during the encounter with the Krylos. They worked alongside a team of engineers, physicists, and computer scientists, all handpicked for their expertise. Captain Jack. Monroe visited occasionally to check on their progress, but he mostly stayed out of their way, trusting Rachel's judgment. For weeks, Rachel pored over every detail of the alien weapons operation. She studied the energy signatures, the pulse patterns, and the faint traces of quantum interference left behind after the blast. Slowly but surely, a picture began to emerge. The key, she realized, was quantum entanglement, a phenomenon where particles remained connected across vast distances, allowing instantaneous communication. The Krylos weren't just using this principle, they had mastered it. It's like they've created a bridge between 2 points in space, Rachel explained to Alex one evening as they reviewed the data. When they fire the weapon, they're not just sending energy, they're collapsing the distance between the target and the source. Alex frowned, scratching his head. So, it's less about raw power and more about precision? Exactly, Rachel said, her eyes lighting up. If we can replicate that process, we could build something even better. Something faster, cleaner, and more efficient. With this new understanding, Rachel began designing a prototype. She spent countless hours in the lab, running simulations and tweaking equations. Her team worked tirelessly to construct the device based on her blueprints. Meanwhile, Alex focused on writing reports and keeping the government informed of their progress. Though he wasn't directly involved in building the weapon, he admired Rachel's determination and brilliance. Months passed, and finally, the day came to test the prototype. The team gathered in a remote corner of the desert, surrounded by sand dunes and scrub brush. A decommissioned tank sat in the middle of the testing area, its rusted hull glinting in the sunlight. Everyone wore protective gear, including helmets with visors to shield their eyes from any potential blast. Rachel stood at the controls, her hands steady despite the weight of the moment. She glanced around at her team, then nodded to Lieutenant Daniel Hayes, who had been assigned to oversee security for the test. "Ready?" she asked. "As we'll ever be," Hayes replied, giving her a thumbs up. Rachel took a deep breath and activated the device. At first, nothing happened. Then a faint hum filled the air, growing louder and sharper until it became almost unbearable. A bright flash erupted from the weapon, followed by a deafening boom. When the dust settled, the tank was gone, completely, vaporized, leaving behind only a scorched patch of earth. The team erupted into cheers. Rachel let out a shaky laugh, tears welling up in her eyes. They had done it. Against all odds, they had created a weapon that rivaled and possibly surpassed the Krylos' technology. Word of the successful test spread quickly through military channels. Within hours, high-ranking officials arrived at the facility, eager to see the prototype for themselves. Among them was General Harold Briggs, a gruff man with a reputation for being ruthless. He listened intently as Rachel explained how the weapon worked, nodding approvingly. "This changes everything," Briggs said when she finished. "With this kind of firepower, we won't just survive, we'll dominate." Rachel stiffened at his words. "That's not what this is about," she said firmly. "We built this to protect ourselves, not to start a war." Briggs raised an eyebrow. "Protection and dominance aren't mutually exclusive, Dr. Dawson. You've given us a tool. How we use it is up to us." Captain Monroe stepped in before the conversation could escalate further. "General, we need to think carefully about our next move. The Krylos are watching us. If we act recklessly, we risk provoking them." Briggs scowled but didn't argue. For now, the decision was made to keep the weapon classified. Only a handful of people would know about its existence, and it would remain hidden unless absolutely necessary. As days turned into weeks, debates raged within the government about how to proceed. Some argued that the weapon should be used as leverage in future negotiations with the Krylos. Others believed it should remain a secret ace up humanity's sleeve, deployed only in case of an attack. Meanwhile, Rachel and Alex continued refining the design, making it smaller and more efficient. Despite the progress, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with forces beyond their control. Every night she lay awake wondering if they were doing the right thing. Was creating such a powerful weapon truly the best path forward? Or were they simply repeating the mistakes of history, arming themselves for a conflict that might never end? Alex tried to reassure her whenever he noticed her doubts creeping in. "You're not responsible for how others choose to use your invention," he told her one evening as they walked outside the facility under a star-filled sky. "All you did was give humanity a chance to stand on equal footing with the Krylos. What happens next is out of your hands." "I know," Rachel said softly. "But that doesn't make it easier." Back in Washington, plans were being drawn, up for another mission to the Krylos system. This time the Odyssey would return armed with Rachel's upgraded weapons. The goal was twofold: establish peaceful relations if possible, but demonstrate Earth's newfound capabilities if provoked. Captain Monroe was put in charge of leading the expedition, with orders to avoid conflict unless absolutely necessary. As preparations got underway, the crew of the Odyssey reunited for briefings and training sessions. Lieutenant Hayes practiced combat maneuvers in simulated zero-gravity environments, while Dr. Emily Shaw updated the translation software to improve communication with the Krylos. Everyone knew the stakes were higher this time. If things went wrong, there might not be a second chance. Rachel joined the team for these sessions, explaining the capabilities of the new weapon and answering questions about its limitations. She emphasized the importance of restraint, reminding everyone that the weapon was meant as a deterrent, not a first strike. Still, she couldn't ignore the looks of awe and fear on some of the crew's faces as they absorbed the implications of what they were carrying. On the eve of departure, Alex found Rachel sitting alone in the observatory, staring at the stars. He sat down beside her, offering a small smile. "Nervous?" he asked. She nodded. "What if we're making a mistake? What if this only makes things worse?" "We won't know unless we try," Alex replied gently. "And besides, you've already proven that humans are capable of amazing things. Maybe the Krylos will see that too." Rachel sighed, leaning back in her chair. "I hope you're right." The next morning, the Odyssey launched once again, carrying humanity's hopes and fears into the unknown. As the ship pierced Earth's atmosphere and soared toward the stars, Rachel watched the blue-green orb fade into the distance. For better or worse, the fate of humanity rested in their hands. And as much as she dreaded the thought of conflict, she couldn't deny the thrill of discovery coursing through her veins. Whatever awaited them among the stars, one thing was certain: humanity had taken its first step toward becoming something greater. Whether that greatness would bring peace or destruction remained to be seen. The journey back to the Krylos system was quieter than before, but the tension aboard the Odyssey was palpable. Everyone knew what they were carrying this time: a weapon that could match and possibly outclass the Krylos' own devastating arsenal. Rachel Dawson spent most of her time in the ship's lab, double-checking every aspect of the prototype to ensure it would function perfectly when needed. Alex Carter stayed close by, offering support and occasionally helping with calculations, though he couldn't shake the feeling that something about this mission felt wrong. Captain Jack Monroe held regular briefings to keep the crew focused. "Our goal is simple," he reminded them during one such meeting. "We're here to negotiate peace if possible. But if the Krylos try anything aggressive, we'll show them we're not as weak as they think." Lieutenant Daniel Hayes nodded, his expression serious. "Understood, sir. We're ready for whatever comes our way." Dr. Emily Shaw, the xenobiologist, added cautiously, "Just remember, these are intelligent beings. They might not react well to threats even if we have the upper hand." Monroe acknowledged her concern with a sharp nod. "Point taken, Doctor. Rest assured, we won't act unless provoked." As the Odyssey approached the barren moon where they had encountered the Krylos fleet months earlier, the crew braced themselves for another meeting. This time, however, things were different. The humans weren't coming empty-handed. When the alien ships appeared on the radar, Lieutenant Hayes carefully maneuvered the Odyssey into position, keeping a safe distance while signaling their intent to communicate. It didn't take long for a response. A smaller Krylos vessel detached from the fleet and moved toward them, just like last time. Through the viewport, the crew watched as the insectoid aliens prepared to make contact. Once again, Commander Vorthak appeared as a holographic projection. Its compound eyes glowed faintly, and its voice came through the translator device in choppy but understandable English. "Why, return?" it asked coldly. Captain Monroe stepped forward, speaking clearly into the microphone. "We've come to discuss terms of cooperation. Humanity has much to offer, and we believe mutual understanding can benefit both our species." Vorthak tilted its head slightly, studying them. Then it emitted a series of clicks, which the translator interpreted as laughter. "Cooperation? With primitives?" Rachel clenched her fists at the insult but forced herself to remain calm. She glanced at Captain Monroe, who showed no sign of backing down. Instead, he pressed on. "Primitive or not, we've made progress since our last encounter. Perhaps it's time you reconsider your opinion of us." Vorthak's mandibles twitched, and for a moment the alien seemed intrigued. But then its tone turned icy. "Prove worthiness." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. One of the Krylos cruisers had locked onto the Odyssey with targeting systems. Lieutenant Hayes immediately took evasive action, weaving the ship through space to avoid incoming fire. The crew scrambled to their stations as chaos erupted in the control room. "They're attacking," Hayes shouted, his hands flying over the controls. "Deploy countermeasures," Monroe ordered. "And activate the weapon." Rachel rushed to the console where the prototype was housed. Her heart pounded as she keyed in the activation sequence, her fingers trembling slightly. For all her confidence in the lab, she hadn't expected to use the weapon so soon. As the hum grew louder and the energy charge built up, she aimed it directly at the nearest Krylos cruiser. With a flash of light, the weapon fired. The blast struck the alien ship dead center, disabling its engines instantly. Sparks flew from the cruiser's hull as it drifted helplessly in space. The other Krylos vessels hesitated, clearly shocked by what had just happened. "What did you do?" Alex whispered, staring wide-eyed at the scene unfolding outside the viewport. "I did what I had to," Rachel replied, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Commander Vorthak's hologram flickered angrily. "How dare you?" Monroe stepped forward again, his tone firm but measured. "This is your warning, Commander. Attack us again and we'll retaliate. We don't want war. We want peace, but we won't be treated as inferior." For several tense moments, the Krylos said nothing. Their ships remained motionless as if weighing their options. Finally, Vorthak spoke. "Retreat. For now." The hologram vanished and the alien fleet began pulling back, leaving the Odyssey alone in space. Inside the ship, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. Lieutenant Hayes slumped into his seat, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was too close," he muttered. Rachel sank into a chair, her hands still shaking. She had done it. She had proven that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the Krylos. But instead of feeling triumphant, she felt hollow. Had they just started a war? Or had they earned respect? Captain Monroe addressed the team, his voice calm, but resolute. "Good work, everyone. We've shown them we're not defenseless. Now let's hope they honor their retreat and give us a chance to negotiate." Over the next few days, the crew remained on high alert, expecting another attack at any moment. But the Krylos didn't return. Instead, radio transmissions began, arriving fragmented but clear enough to suggest the aliens were willing to reopen talks. General Harold Briggs, monitoring the situation from Earth, ordered the Odyssey to stay put and continue negotiations. Back on the ship, tensions eased slightly, though unease lingered. Rachel spent hours reviewing the data from the weapon's deployment, analyzing its performance and making notes for future improvements. Alex tried to lighten the mood by cracking jokes, but even he couldn't fully dispel the somber atmosphere. One evening, as the crew gathered in the mess hall for dinner, Dr. Shaw brought up an important question. "Do you think the Krylos will actually cooperate now?" she asked. "Or are they just biding their time until they find a way to strike back?" Monroe shrugged. "Hard to say, but one thing's for sure. They underestimated us once. They won't make that mistake again." Rachel looked up from her plate, her expression thoughtful. Maybe that's a good thing. If they see us as equals, maybe we can build something real, something lasting. Alex nodded slowly. It's worth a shot. But we need to be careful. Trust isn't going to come easy. As the days passed, the Krylos finally agreed to meet. Again. This time the encounter was less hostile. Through Dr. Shaw's improved translation software, the humans managed to establish a rudimentary dialogue with the aliens. While the Krylos still viewed humanity as inexperienced, they couldn't deny the technological leap the humans had achieved. Commander Vorthak reluctantly admitted that Earth's ingenuity impressed him, or at least, as much as an alien insectoid leader could sound impressed. Perhaps cooperation, possible. Monroe seized the opportunity. We're willing to share knowledge and resources. In return, we ask for access to your technology and insight into galactic affairs. Negotiations dragged on for weeks, with both sides wary of revealing too much. The Krylos offered blueprints for faster-than-light travel, while the humans provided insights into quantum mechanics and artificial intelligence. Rachel played a key role in explaining Earth's advancements, earning grudging respect from the aliens, but not everyone was convinced the alliance would hold. Lieutenant Hayes voiced his concerns during a private conversation with Alex. "I don't trust them," he said bluntly. "They're too proud, too used to being top dog. What happens when they realize we're catching up?" Alex sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't know. But for now, we don't have much choice. Either we work together, or we risk everything falling apart." By the time the negotiations concluded, a fragile truce had been reached. The Krylos promised to provide guidance on interstellar travel, while humanity agreed to contribute its innovations in exchange. Both parties knew the agreement was tenuous, built on mutual distrust and necessity rather than genuine friendship. As the Odyssey prepared to return home, Rachel stood in the observation deck, gazing at the stars. She felt a mix of pride and apprehension. They had accomplished something incredible, proving that humanity could hold its own against a superior force. But she also knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Alex joined her, leaning against the railing. "You did good, Rachel. Better than anyone could have hoped." She smiled faintly. "Thanks. But I can't help wondering, is this really the start of something new, or are we just delaying the inevitable?" Alex didn't answer right away. He simply stared out at the endless expanse of space, letting the silence speak for itself. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain. Humanity had taken its first step into the galactic arena, and there was no turning back now. The Odyssey returned to Earth amid a mix of celebration and caution. News of humanity's successful encounter with the Krylos spread quickly, though much of the story was kept under wraps by the government. The public was told only that peaceful negotiations had been established, with vague promises of technological exchange. Behind closed doors, however, debates raged about how to handle the alliance, and the weapon Rachel Dawson had developed. Rachel herself struggled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, she felt pride in what she and her team had achieved. They had proven that humanity could stand its ground against an advanced alien species. On the other hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with fire. The Krylos weren't exactly friendly, and their willingness to share knowledge felt more like a reluctant acknowledgement of human potential than a genuine goodwill. Alex Carter noticed Rachel's unease during one of their late-night conversations at the research facility. "You're overthinking again," he said gently, handing her a cup of coffee. "We did what we had to do. If anything, this gives us a chance to learn from them." "Does it?" Rachel asked, her voice tinged with doubt. "Or does it just make them see us as a bigger threat? What happens when they figure out we've got more tricks up our sleeves?" Alex hesitated before answering. "I don't know. But for now we have the upper hand. That's something, right?" Rachel nodded, though her expression remained troubled. She knew Alex was trying to reassure her, but the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. This wasn't just about science anymore. It was about survival. Meanwhile, Captain Jack Monroe faced his own challenges. The military brass wanted immediate plans for integrating the Krylos's faster-than-light technology into Earth's defense systems. General Harold Briggs, in particular, pushed hard for aggressive expansion into space, arguing that humanity needed to secure its position before the Krylos changed their minds. "We can't afford to sit around waiting for them to turn on us," Briggs barked during a meeting at the Pentagon. "Now's the time to act while they still think we're harmless." Monroe crossed his arms, his face unreadable. "With all due respect, sir, rushing into this could backfire. We need to tread carefully. Trust takes time to build." Briggs glared at him. "Trust is a luxury we don't have. If you want peace, prepare for war." The tension between the two men reflected a larger divide within the government. Some officials believed the alliance with the Krylos should be nurtured, while others saw it as a temporary opportunity to gain an edge. In the end, a compromise was reached. Earth would proceed cautiously with the Krylos, but preparations for conflict would continue in secret. Back at the research facility, Rachel and her team worked tirelessly to refine the prototype weapon. Though it had performed flawlessly during the skirmish with the Krylos, there were still improvements to be made. Smaller, more portable versions were designed for use on future missions. At the same time, efforts were underway to adapt the Krylos' faster-than-light technology for human spacecraft. Despite the progress, not everyone was comfortable with the direction things were heading. Dr. Emily Shaw voiced her concerns during a routine check-in with Captain Monroe. "Are we sure we're ready for this?" she asked, gesturing to the schematics laid out on the table. "Their tech is centuries ahead of ours. Rushing to implement it could lead to disaster." Monroe sighed, rubbing his temples. "I hear you, Doctor, but we don't have a choice. If we don't keep up, we risk falling behind and losing whatever leverage we've gained." Shaw frowned but didn't argue further. She knew Monroe was right, even if she didn't like it. As weeks turned into months, strange reports began trickling in from deep space probes stationed near the edge of the solar system. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes, now assigned to monitor these signals, noticed unusual activity, a cluster of unidentified ships lurking just outside Earth's reach. When he brought the findings to Rachel and Alex, they immediately suspected the worst. "It could be the Krylos," Alex said, studying the data. "Maybe they're testing us." "Or maybe they're planning something," Rachel countered grimly. "We need to find out what they're doing out there." Captain Monroe agreed and dispatched a reconnaissance mission to investigate. Using stealth technology borrowed from the Krylos designs, a small team ventured into the outer reaches of the solar system. What they discovered shocked them. A hidden Krylos base, camouflaged among asteroids and equipped with advanced surveillance equipment. "They've been watching us," Hayes reported upon returning. "Probably since we left their system." The revelation sent shockwaves through the command center. While some saw the base as proof of the Krylos' distrust, others viewed it as evidence of their strategic mindset. Either way, it underscored the fragility of the alliance. Rachel took the news hard. "So much for cooperation," she muttered, pacing the lab. "They never trusted us. Why should we trust them?" Alex placed a hand on her shoulder. "Because we don't have a better option. If we cut ties now, we lose everything we've worked for." Reluctantly, Rachel agreed. But she couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that permeated every decision they made. The line between ally and adversary seemed thinner than ever. In an effort to strengthen the alliance, a delegation of humans traveled back to the Krylos system for further negotiations. This time, the atmosphere was less hostile, but no less tense. Commander Vorthak greeted them with cautious curiosity, clearly intrigued by humanity's rapid advancements. "You learn quickly," Vorthak admitted, its mandibles twitching slightly. "Perhaps alliance beneficial." Rachel seized the moment to propose a joint project, combining human ingenuity with Krylos technology to create something entirely new. "Together we could achieve things neither of us could alone," she explained through the translator device. Vorthak considered her words, its multifaceted eyes glinting. After a long pause, it nodded. Agreement? Possible. Though skeptical, the Krylos agreed to collaborate on a limited scale. Teams of scientists from both species began working side by side, sharing knowledge and experimenting with hybrid technologies. For the first time, hope flickered in the hearts of those involved, but not everyone shared this optimism. Back on Earth, whispers of dissent grew louder. Some argued that relying too heavily on alien technology would weaken humanity's independence. Others feared that the Krylos might exploit the partnership to gain access to Earth's resources. Amid the uncertainty, Alex found himself reflecting on their journey so far. Humanity had come a long way in such a short time, proving that even the smallest spark of innovation could illuminate the darkest corners of the universe. Yet he couldn't help wondering if they were truly prepared for the responsibilities that came with such power. One evening, as he and Rachel stood beneath the stars, Alex voiced his thoughts aloud. "Do you think we're ready for this, for everything that's coming?" Rachel looked at him, her expression softening. "I don't know, but I do know one thing. We'll face it together." For now, that was enough. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage. And though the road was uncertain, it was theirs to walk. The alliance between humanity and the Krylos was fragile, but it held for a time. Joint projects brought humans and aliens together in ways no one had imagined possible. Scientists from both species worked side by side, sharing knowledge and experimenting with hybrid technologies. The results were astonishing. Faster-than-light engines capable of reaching distant stars, energy shields that could protect entire planets, and medical breakthroughs that cured diseases once thought incurable. Rachel Dawson became a key figure in these collaborations. Her expertise in quantum mechanics earned her respect among the Krylos scientists, who initially viewed her as little more than a curious primitive. Over time, however, they began to see her brilliance and determination. Together they developed new applications for quantum entanglement, pushing the boundaries of what either species had achieved alone. Alex Carter, meanwhile, focused on documenting the cultural exchange. He spent hours interviewing Krylos researchers, learning about their history, values, and worldview. What he discovered surprised him. Despite their advanced technology, the Krylos were not so different from humans. They too had faced challenges, made mistakes, and struggled to find balance between progress and ethics. In many ways, their journey mirrored humanity's own. But not everyone shared Alex's optimism. Captain Jack Monroe remained vigilant, wary of the Krylos' true intentions. Though the aliens had agreed to cooperate, their actions often seemed calculated, as if every step forward was part of a larger plan. Lieutenant Daniel Hayes echoed this sentiment, voicing concerns during strategy meetings aboard the Odyssey. "They're holding something back," Hayes said one evening, his tone sharp. "Every time we think we've gained ground, they pull us in another direction." Monroe nodded slowly. "You're probably right. But until we have proof, we play along. For now, trust is all we've got." Trust, however, was a scarce commodity. Back on Earth, debates raged over whether the alliance was worth the risks. Some argued that humanity should focus on developing its own technology rather than relying on alien assistance. Others believed the partnership offered opportunities too valuable to pass up. General Harold Briggs leaned heavily toward the latter view, urging the government to push harder for access to Krylos secrets. "We can't afford to let fear hold us back," Briggs declared during a high-level meeting. "If we play our cards right, we'll dominate the galaxy within a decade," Captain Monroe countered cautiously. "Domination isn't the goal here, sir. Survival is. If we move too fast, we risk losing everything." Briggs scowled but didn't argue further. Deep down, he knew Monroe was right. But patience wasn't his strong suit. As months turned into years, the collaboration yielded incredible advancements. Humanity's first interstellar colony was established on a distant planet, powered by Krylos energy systems. Ships equipped with hybrid engines began exploring uncharted regions of space, mapping star systems and discovering resources beyond imagination. For the first time in history, Earth felt like part of something greater, a member of a galactic community. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Reports of strange activity near Earth's solar system grew more frequent. Probes detected unusual energy signatures emanating from the outer reaches of space. When reconnaissance missions confirmed the presence of additional Krylos bases, suspicions flared. "They're surrounding us," Rachel said grimly during a briefing at the research facility. "It's only a matter of time before they make their move." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her. "We don't know that for sure. Maybe they're just being cautious, like we are." Rachel shook her head. "Cautious doesn't mean innocent. We need to be ready for anything." Her words proved prophetic. One fateful night, alarms blared across Earth's defense networks. A massive fleet of Krylos ships emerged from the shadows, heading straight for the planet. Their intent was clear: invasion. Panic spread rapidly as governments scrambled to respond. The weapon Rachel had developed, the one that had once impressed Commander Vorthak, was deployed immediately. Human forces fought valiantly, using their newfound technology to hold off the attackers. But the Krylos were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. In the chaos, Captain Monroe led a desperate counterattack. With the Odyssey serving as command central, he coordinated strikes against the Krylos fleet, targeting their largest vessels. The battle raged for hours, neither side gaining a decisive advantage. Just when it seemed Earth might fall, reinforcements arrived. Human ships armed with hybrid weapons, bolstered by the very technology the Krylos had shared. Commander Vorthak appeared on screen, furious but resigned. "Cease hostilities," it demanded. "Further conflict, pointless." Monroe hesitated, then gave the order to stand down. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Vorthak's mandibles twitched. "Cooperation, necessary, not conquest." Though skeptical, Monroe agreed to negotiate. Hours later, an uneasy truce was reached. The Krylos withdrew their forces, promising to honor the alliance or face retaliation. For now, peace was restored. In the aftermath, humanity reflected on what had happened. The attack had exposed flaws in the partnership, but it had also strengthened resolve. Earth's leaders vowed never again to rely solely on alien goodwill. Investments in independent research surged, ensuring humanity would always have its own path forward. Rachel and Alex stood together one evening, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky. "Do you think we'll ever truly trust them?" Alex asked quietly. Rachel sighed, her gaze distant. "I don't know. Maybe someday, but for now I'm just glad we survived." Alex smiled faintly. "That makes two of us." Humanity had taken its place among the stars, proving it was capable of greatness and resilience. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, filled with challenges yet unseen. But as Alex gazed upward, he felt a flicker of hope. Whatever came, next humanity would face it, not as primitives but as pioneers.